Secretary Moses Kuria following the first cabinet reshuffle by President William Ruto. As senior political affairs reporter Chris Thairu sat down with the CS who took questions about his relationship with the president, the deputy president and the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Take a look.
With a political experience that spans 2 decades now, Cabinet Secretary for Public Service and Delivery Management, Moses Kuria was lucky to be one of the 22 men and women appointed by President William Ruto to join his cabinet. 11 months after serving as Trade Cabinet Secretary, Kuria will be among the CSs who are affected by the reshuffle. While a majority of Kenyans interpreted the reshuffle as a demotion due to his strong position, especially with the West, he has a different view altogether.
Then the president said, this work of coordinating, ensuring we are on track for all projects, including the projects in trade. So it is plus. Now I am in charge of trade, water, housing, delivery. How can that be a demotion, surely? I was plucking my hair off for one ministry. What about today when I have wake up 22? My housing projects, I call PS Inga. Because all this work, sometimes it can be too much even for the president, who, as you know, is very hands-on. And most people were not part of the original plan development. So I am that unfortunate guy who, other than the president, in the cabinet, was most involved, of course, with Juguna Ndungu, who was, like me, a member of the economic team during the campaign. So the president tells me, now which part of this plan don't you understand?
He confirms that he had differed with the American ambassador to Kenya over Sudan.
If I don't comment on the Sudan, and with maximum respect to my good friend Meg Whitman, if I don't really comment on Sudan, then what are we trying to create? Another Rwanda, whereby everybody said, not my business. I think Kenya, and I'm a senior government officer in Kenya, has a responsibility in the region. Just like, the US has a right sometimes to intervene in other countries. But I don't have issues with the West. I worked very well with the European Union. As I've told you, convincing 27 countries within months, to sign an economic agreement with Kenya. 27 countries, those are Western countries, We had an issue with the American ambassador, not with the American government. And American ambassador was holding some views which I thought, she didn't like some of my views, especially on the Sudan. But unfortunately, I have been vindicated on the Sudan issue.
Any regrets while he served as Trade CS?
And my one regret is that we really have not cracked it in terms of exports. And unless we really crack the export thing, unless we put the infrastructure for exports, and we have to be deliberate about it. We have to be deliberate. I've told my sister, CS Rebecca Miano, her biggest challenge is really to come up with a proper infrastructure for exports. Because if we don't export, our shilling continues to get battered, and we cannot really say that we can come out of current economic recession, get into recovery, create jobs, unless we are very deliberate on exports, the way I was very deliberate on industrialization.
How will he describe his boss?
William, also the first thing is resilience. William is a very resilient person. How? He's the most unlikely president, honestly speaking. Let us forget huge talk. How can someone who was being hunted, sometimes I ask him, didn't you at one time ponder what would happen if you would have lost the election? And you know what he tells me? He was prepared for both. He was prepared for life in government as president, and he was prepared for life as opposition. And given the kind of enemies that were ahead of us, it only takes resilience. So William Ruto is a very hands-on person. For me, I'm a very hands-on person. So that's I'm one of the few people who have got zero issues, because people are gifted differently. People are gifted with vision, and others are gifted with execution.
His relationship with the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, especially after word went round that he might have been behind his reshuffle to tame him.
The Deputy President and I have come from a long way. I remember in 2017 when I was leading the Mbere Ikosawa campaign for Uhuru Kenyatta and also for Jubilee candidates, I did a lot of work to campaign for the deputy president in Madeira. You know, there was quite some fight down there. When he was elected, he found me in my second term in parliament, and I was his boss. I was the vice chair of the transport committee, where he served as one of my loyal members. And we campaigned together. We did a lot of work. We suffered a lot from the previous regime together. When I'm not in the court, he's the one, you know, in the court. When I'm not in the cell, he was the one in the cell. So we have really come together. The other thing also is that the deputy president has got the interest of Mount Kenya people at heart, and so do I have the interest of the Mount Kenya people at heart, and I have the interest of the Kenya Kwanza government at heart. So there cannot be a distinction, neither at national level nor at what do you call it, at a regional level. So that cannot be an argument. I think people are reading too much. I am not under attack from anyone. It is good to be supported, but I have got no threats or knowledge to be saved from, to be supported from.
He only has one issue with former President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Zero grudges, not, at least not from me. Not from me. I have only one grudge, which is really a question. When I see him, I'll ask him that question. Something to do with bombers of Kenya during the vote tallying, because I believe that that is the closest I've ever come to death at the bombers of Kenya during the vote tallying.
What do you mean?
No, because of the way he allowed the country to, descend into what could have been catastrophic. Had some people done what was asked of them to do, and had God not been on our side, we could have been talking about a different story. And given the amount of work me and Uhuru Kenyatta did post 2007, 2008, when the country descended into an abyss, I could not fathom or understand how Uhuru Kenyatta, with whom we saw the country descend 2007, 2008, could allow the country close to that kind of, an abyss. It is really it is the only thing that bothers me. The rest we can live with, the rest we will repair. And I'm sure that once maybe I hear his side of story in terms of what happened at Bomas, maybe we'll forgive each other finally and move together in the future as the brothers and friends that we really are.
Will you still be vying for the Kiambu gubernatorial seat?
Never. 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 How can I leave this state called Kenya for Kiambu again? I presented myself to Kiambu people. I think they were very generous with 24,000 votes out of a potential of 1.2 million, 1.3 million registered voters. I'm grateful for that. I sold my manifesto to them. Most of the things I did in trade, they were also in my manifesto because I was part of both manifestos, national and my own for Kiambu people. But now I have a fantastic opportunity to drive change for not just Kiambu people, Kiambu plus and other people of this country. So, life does not go like that. Unaenda university halafu unaanza kurudi kindergarten.